Hi everybody, this is Boogess Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a Throwback Thursday review on the Neca Ultimate Predator Concrete Jungle Scarface Predator figure. So before we take a look at the Predator, let's go ahead and take a look at all of the accessories that he comes with. So first up, the Predator comes with his wrist blades. They are removable, and they're actually thicker than what I'm used to seeing on other Predator figures. It makes changing them out really easy. It doesn't feel like I'm going to break them or anything like that, so that's pretty cool. Up next, he comes with his plasma caster, and this is detailed really nicely. I love the sculpt on this, the textures and everything. It looks really good. It's cast in a black plastic with silver painted over top of it, and the actual plasma caster itself, it can slide up and down like that. It has 3 points of articulation, one here at the base, one at the middle that moves up and down, and then at the top it's a ball joint so you can move the cannon up and down just a little bit and side to side very nicely. So this is a pretty cool accessory. Up next, he comes with an alternate right hand for holding the spear gun, and the spear gun itself has some really awesome sculpt and paint detail to it. I love the textures and the dings and scratches you get all over the whole thing. That looks really good. I believe it's cast in silver and has a dry brushing of both silver and black over top of it. It makes it look really battle worn. You can see the Predator language right there. Man, that looks really cool. Up next, he comes with his maul weapon. And man, this is very awesome. I love the sculpt detail to it just like I like the sculpt detail on the spear gun. You see a bunch of battle damage to it, and it has this really nice black wash that brings all the textures and the battle damage out really nicely. That's actually one of the ways that you can tell if it's a knockoff or not. The knockoff's blade will be completely silver. There won't be any sort of black detailing to it, but on the handle and the blade itself you get a really nice black wash. Up next, he comes with his unmasked head, and this is incredibly detailed. Neca did a really awesome job on that. I love the texturing on the skin you get there, and all the paint variation on his head, like the brown pattern right here, the little black dots on the skin. I also like how the brown fades into a lighter brown, and then into the skin tone before it gets to the pattern right here. There's a bunch of different tones painted on the head right here. You get a nice wash inside of the mouth that brings the details out really nicely. And of course, since this is the Scarface Predator, you get this massive scar on the left side of his face. He's missing an eye, that's why he's called the Scarface Predator. It would have been really cool if they would have included an alternate head with the fresh wound, with this scar being that bright fluorescent green. That would have been really cool. But I'm still really happy with this head sculpt, it just looks really nice. And finally, he comes with his helmeted head sculpt. And man, that looks awesome. I think this has to be one of the coolest Predator designs. The mask looks really good. It's textured really nicely. It's cast in a black plastic with silver paint over top of it. And of course you get the red paint here on the left side. And that just looks really, really awesome. Neca did a very awesome job on this head sculpt. As I said, it's just one of the coolest Predator designs ever in my opinion. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the figure. This is a really detailed Predator figure. I believe some of the parts of this body mold are reused from one of the Alien vs. Predator figures, but it does have a lot of new parts to it. As I said, the armor sculpted really nicely, you get the texturing there, and the chainmail looks really great. It's sculpted very well and has this bluish color paint over top of it. That looks really awesome. I will say, I wish that the fishnets would have been painted a little bit better on mine. I feel like I have that issue with literally every Predator figure I get. I will say the fishnets on the legs came out pretty clean for the most part, but yeah, it's kind of spotty up here. I also wanted to mention another thing that you can look for to beware of bootlegs is the lower torso here won't quite line up with the belt. It'll be a lot thinner. Of course, you also won't get the paint variation that this has, like where that yellowish color fades into the light brown and then dark brown, because it's hard to see, but if you look, they actually printed the details. Neca actually printed the details on the edge here, where the brown fades into the skin tone and then back into the darker colors. The edges of this is actually printed on. Another thing that you can look for as well is the skull on the belt and the shoulder right here. It won't be detailed. On the bootlegs, they're very they're very bright, and they don't have this black wash over top of them, because this is detailed really nicely, and the black wash brings the details out very well, and that's another thing that the bootlegs won't have. I really like the trophies that he wears. That looks really cool. I believe it's cast in black plastic for the string there, and this brownish color is painted over top of it, and then it has a wash over top of that. It's like I can't tell if it's black or like a really dark gray, but it has some really nice paint variation over top of it, and that looks really good. Looking at the back of this figure, let's go ahead and take this off here. You can see how detailed it is. That looks really awesome. You get some more really nice sculpt and paint detail to the chainmail right here. And if you look at the back, I actually thought they left the fishnets painted just in the skin color. But no, if you look closely, you can see that they actually painted the fishnets in black. They wouldn't have to because it's a really dark color. I don't think it'd really be noticeable if they didn't paint them on. But on the backs of the arms, the legs, they actually painted all of those on there. So that's a detail that you wouldn't really notice, but I'm really glad that Neca painted on there. I like the detailing on the loincloth, I guess you'd call it, as well. It's textured really nicely, has red paint over top of it. I believe this bluish color, or maybe the black is what it's cast in, and then has a nice wash over top of it. And that looks really good. Brings that texturing out really nicely. I forgot to mention, whenever you're switching the heads out, and just articulating the figure in general, definitely be careful with the right arm, because I completely ripped the shoulder pad off. I do think the glue had gotten a little weak because this figure is a decade old at this point, but yeah, I did accidentally rip this off. I did glue it back down, and it feels like it's going to stay on there now, but yeah, don't make the mistake I did and, articulate it and then rip the shoulder piece off right here. The leg armor is incredibly detailed. I really, really love the amount of sculpt detail that he has. The textures on this are crazy. And you even get a little bit of paint variation down here where you can see the skin showing through. It's really subtle, but there's like a little bit of brown paint to it. And that looks really good. He does have a little bit of sculpt detail to the bottoms of his feet here, but not too much because you get the Neca and the date it was made there. So now, let's go ahead and go over his articulation. Since this is an older figure, the articulation is kind of dated. I do think it would be cool if Neca would re-release this with some updates, like actual ball-jointed hips, maybe replace some of the joints here. I think that'd be really cool. So he has a ball-jointed head. It's on, let me see if I can pop it off here. So he has one of these ball joints. It's a ball joint down here in the neck, but it's a straight peg, so it does limit the articulation. That's why I said a re-release would be really cool. Have a double ball peg right here in the neck joint. That would be really good. Since he has one of those neck joints, he can only look up a little bit. He can look down a little bit. He can move his head. He can move his head to the left a little more than he can his right. As I said, definitely be careful with this shoulder pad here. On the left arm, the shoulder pad is, I think it's connected up here at the top of his shoulder, not the actual joint right here. So on the left side, you can move the shoulder out a decent amount. On the right side, definitely be careful with that. He has swiveled the bicep, double jointed elbows that can bend all the way in. And I forgot to mention, you can actually open the pad up here on his gauntlet. And that's detailed really nicely. I really should have showed that off when I was going over the figure. But he has swivel here at the forearm, ball jointed wrists that they really don't move up and down. They do move side to side really nicely, but because of the way they're made, since this is an older Neca figure, the articulation is pretty hindered with the ball joints that they used then. He has a diaphragm and waist joint that I believe is the same type that the neck is. He can move back a little bit, forward very slightly, side to side very slightly here. The waist is actually articulated really nicely, so that swivels all the way around. He has hinged hips that can only move out that far. If you move it any more, you could split the armor right here from the loincloth, and you don't want to do that. He can kick forward very slightly, back just a little bit. Really nice thigh swivel. Double jointed knees that can move all the way back, and they move side to side up here. And ball jointed ankles. They're like the wrists, and they do move up and down a little bit and side to side a little bit, and I guess they rock a little bit. But yeah, the articulation is pretty hindered with these old ball joints. So now, let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. So first up, here he is next to the Stoneheart Predator, which is an enormous figure. If I remember right, I don't think the Stoneheart Predator was quite that big in the game, but I mean, it looks really cool on your shelf and really stands out. Here he is next to the Warrior Predator. I'm pretty sure he reuses some parts from this one because I'm pretty sure this one came first. If you look, the thighs look the same, and so does the midsection there. Maybe even the biceps. And finally, here he is next to the Ahab Predator. So overall, I would highly recommend picking this up if you can find one. I think nowadays this figure is pretty pricey and hard to find. But yeah, if you're a Predator fan, then you definitely need to have this in your collection. Neca just did a really good job on this. This is one of my favorite Predator designs ever, and they did a really good job at bringing it to life. The sculpt and paint detail is crazy. The sculpt looks really good. You get a bunch of textures, and the textures are brought out really nicely by the paint variation. You get nice washes, paint variation. The detail to the patterns on the skin looks really good, and even the weapons are detailed. You even get some really nice washes on the weapons. The only real downside to this figure is the articulation, but I can't really fault it for that because this was released 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure the articulation scheme that this Predator had was probably standard for NECA at the time. But yeah, this is a really incredible figure. I think a re-release would be really cool, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So yeah, if you're able to find one of these, and for a decent price, then definitely pick it up, because it is probably the coolest Predator figure that NECA has done. So, that's my review. If you like this review, be sure to hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.